Good evening. This is the Heber City Council Candidate Forum, sponsored by Wasatch Wave and Wasatch Taxpayers Association. We're here with our Heber City candidates, Heidi Franco, Perry Rose, Ryan Stack, and Wayne Hardman. I'd like to start just off the bat, quickly introduce yourselves, give us some information of your websites where people can get more information. Heidi?
I'm Heidi Franco. I've been serving on the Heber City Council the last 4 years, and I really want to thank all of you for that great privilege to be able to represent you and to try to protect and improve what we love about Heber City. I am the mother of 12 children, 6 boys, 6 girls. I have been so blessed in my life. My husband and I have lived in this valley. We bought land here almost 30 years ago, built a house here, raised our kids here. I've been dreaming about Heber City ever since I was 8 years old. I lived on the other side of Timpanogos. I love that mountain and I love this valley. Several years ago, my family went through quite a tough time, and we were just so blessed, lifted up and carried by the people of this city. And it was 2 years later that I decided I wanted to give back. I also teach government. Government's very important to me. My father taught me to love this country. He talked about city government, national government every day over at the dinner table, and I got into that, studied it. I have my master's degree from Brigham Young University in public administration. I have my PhD from the University of Utah, so I bleed red and blue, I guess. But I teach government. I've done so for over 20 years. Government means a lot to me. I've taught thousands of students across this country that they need to figure out what they believe, they need to understand what others believe, and they need to improve this country. We cannot take our liberty for granted. And the only way we can sustain our liberty is to make sure our government is efficient and accountable to us. And so that has been my motto. It's been my main slogan right now. I am accountable to you. And I will be accountable to you, and I don't need anyone's permission to come to you and to tell you the way your money is being spent, because you're the ones that elected me, and I am going to be loyal and accountable to you. Thank you.
Can you give me information, website,
Oh, thank you. Yes.
phone number?
I have my Facebook website, and I have material on there now. You can certainly look up Heidi Franco on the website. I'm going to be linking in the various videos and interviews that we've had, so thank you.
Perry?
Thank you. Let me just first say thanks for everybody coming. It's a long night,
Yes.
and I want you to understand, being involved is a big part of this community. I know that. My name's Perry Rose, and I think most of the people here tonight know me. Those that don't know me know that I was a young, 26-inch waist, snot-nosed kid, and a good friend of mine by the name of Rex Pedersen come to me and he said, you know, you've been running from the cops all these years. You haven't beat us, so you ought to join us. And so I did. And I became a law enforcement officer. And I remember standing in front of the city council the night that they hired me, and they said, why would we hire a snot-nosed kid that looks like a kid? I said, I don't know why you do that, but I'll tell you what, if you do, I'll be the first officer to start my career with you and go a full 20 years and retire with Heber City. I kept that commitment. That commitment is the only one stands today. I'm the only officer in Heber City that's ever started my career with Heber City, went a full 20 years and retired. I'm proud of that. And what it does is it shows my commitment to the people of this community. I think the way I want to say that is I'll put my life on the line, and I've proven it. And I'll do that now because your voice is important in today's growing economy. I have so many of the people as I've knocked on doors through this campaign that have told me, I don't want to lose integrity. But who are we today? You hear the mayors today saying, right? Well, we got to get some planning. But the first thing we have to do, you the people, us the people, have to decide, who are we? There's a man that done a study from England not too long ago. Found out Midway's a neat place. They're Swiss and they all hang together. Just over the mountain is a little town, Park City. Best skiing in the state. Mining, bike riding. Over the other side of the mountain is Brighton, Snowbird, all of them. All the best skis in the world. And he was staying in Midway City and he wrote this. I'm 5 minutes away from a town that is lost and don't know who they are. I believe that. And I think that's what the feeling is in the community. We need to first, the public needs to say, who are we? We're a recreation, surrounded area, but what do we want to be? And then, and only then, do we step up and do the planning to head that direction. Because we don't know. I'm your voice, like Heidi said. I am your voice. I've proven that over the years, and I won't vary from that. I think there's some things that we've got to get under control, and I'm willing to stand up and fight for it. And I'm not afraid to make the answer no. No is a hard answer. There's hard answers that are questions that need to be answered, and sometimes they're hard, and I'm willing to stand up there and do that. I'm on Facebook. PerryRose.boat has all my material, letters of recommendations from good friends of mine. I've run a business here in town, married to a beautiful wife who's here tonight. 4 children, all married, all of them until about 2 months ago, still in our valley. He jumped ship. I don't know why he did that, but it was good. All of them got children here, 2 of them still in law enforcement. And I want to be your voice. That's why I'm running.
Ryan?
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ryan Stack, and I am honored to be running for City Council. I have 3 kiddos between the ages of 7 and 2. My 7-year-old and my 5-year-old are currently involved in rec soccer, and you see the fields get mobbed every Tuesday night and Saturday morning. I've been married to my wife since 2004, and she is a Utah native. I had the opportunity to attend college and law school at the University of San Diego, where I got my bachelor's in philosophy, so I pretty much guaranteed that I was going to stay in school at that point. Earned my law degree, and then my wife, who's a Utah native, said, hey, come check out Utah. And so I've been in Utah, and I made it my home 11 years ago, and I have absolutely loved it here. I am interested in, and I am very concerned about Heber's growth and our general plan, and I've seen a lot of the issues there firsthand in my time serving you on your planning commission. From some of the things I've seen, I've seen firsthand, our code is out of date, and it isn't working. Several of the applicants who come before the planning commission have concerns and have issues that lead them to end up asking for a rezone, because they have a project that's a permitted use in the current zone, but because of the way the current zone is structured, there are setback or other issues where they could build, but it certainly wouldn't look nice on our main street or in whatever part of town they're looking in. And unfortunately, this has become the rule more than the exception. So our current codes and our current plans simply aren't working. They're not current for Heber and its needs and its citizens today, and that's why I'm running. That's one of the biggest issues why I'm running to serve you, Heber City, is because of what I've seen on the Planning Commission, and because the growth is coming and there's not a way to legally stop it. What we can do in response is to plan intelligently for it. And as Colleen mentioned earlier, we are at a crossroads, and we're at a crossroads where we need leadership and we need vision. And Heber, I'd like to offer you both so we can plan responsibly and intelligently and get ahead of the curve instead of playing catch up like we seem to be doing so frequently. I hope you'll visit my website. It is stackforcouncil.com. I'm on Facebook at Stack for Heber. I have several flyers out in the foyer there for anybody who's here in the audience this evening. I do want to thank everybody for joining us tonight and taking your time on a Saturday evening and choosing to view us online or be here to hear from the candidates. And I do thank you for your time in that. A bit about me, I have served as Utah Communities as a public prosecutor for the last 10 years. Most recently, and for the longest, I've been with Summit County in the Attorney's Office, where I work as a prosecutor. I think my day job, so to speak, as an attorney brings me to the candidate pool with a unique skill set. I'm a problem solver. I want to be able to look at all sides of an issue and find something that is the best solution for the community by listening to the community, by looking at what makes fiscal sense, and by planning intelligently for our future. Thank you.
Wayne?
I'm Wayne Hardman, and I'm glad to be a candidate for City Council. A little bit about me, I'm retired, I'm married, my wife is sitting in the back.
Can you speak up, Wayne? If it's possible, take a drink. Sorry, our microphones are challenged.
Okay, I'm retired, I'm an electrician by trade. I'm a lifelong resident of Heber Valley. I'm 8 years older than Alan, I find out. I've been here for 68 years. I'm a veteran. I served during the Vietnam War. I have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. And they live here, there, and everywhere. One of the reasons I signed up to run was because a lot of citizens are not happy with the way our city government's being handled. They're not happy with the way things are happening around here. They're not happy with the development. They're not happy with traffic. There's a lot of issues. So I ran before. I've been on the county council, and having decided to get myself in hot water again, I signed up to run again. Let's see. One of the things I like to do is I like to take all the issues that are presented, take both sides of the issues, the good, the bad, and decide on whatever is best for the majority of the citizens of Wasatch County. Not for any special interest groups, but for the majority of the citizens who live here. Most people live here are just everyday working people, and they just want to come home to a peaceful place to live and have a good life and live in a decent neighborhood. And that's what I'm about. I'm about sitting here and planning for the future of our city, seeing what we're talking about. One thing about the codes, they want to change the codes. When you start talking about codes and changing codes, you have to be really careful. You change 2 words on a code, you get a whole different meaning. You can turn it into a nightmare. It's like this form-based code. This thing could be really not what the citizens of this city want to see. So we got to be really delicate with what we do with our codes. Even though they've been in place for 70 years, I still think you got to be really careful when you touch these things. Some of them I've seen have been changed a little bit, the zoning and stuff. I believe in personal property rights. People have the rights to do with their property, but they don't have the right to come in and change all the codes and just make it an eyesore.
And how can people reach you, Wayne?
Okay. Let me see what else I had here. Okay,
sorry.
One of the things I had to say is I'm concerned for the people in our community who are on fixed incomes. And one of the ways we can help them is we can give them a break. Heber City Council, you can cut them a break when you raise their water rates. If they're on a fixed income, cut them a break. Heber Light and Power charges a $15 service fee.
I'm going to cut you off there, Wayne, because these are issues we're going to talk about in a minute. So give people a way to contact you, and then we'll move on to some of these questions.
Okay. I'm on Facebook, and my phone number is 435-671-1904.
Great.
I don't have a website, so I'm an old-fashioned guy, so just call me up and you get a hold of me.
Great. Okay, let's talk about some of those issues.
Let's do.
The bypass road. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Main Street. The Heber Council is the entity that gets to vote on a lot of these issues. We spent time with the mayor race. We looked over some of their issues as a mayor. But as city council, these are going to be issues that you guys are going to have to vote on in the next 4 years. The bypass road. How do we fix our traffic on Main Street? And what do we need to see happen in the next 4 years that you're in office to handle some of this traffic that people are not happy about? Wayne, I'm going to let you go first. How about that?
Okay. One of the things you have to realize about our Main Street is Heber City doesn't own it. UDOT owns it, and it's their road. And they pretty much do what they want to do. When I was on the council, we got stonewalled more than once when I was on the county council by UDOT. You go to their meetings, And they say, we put you on the radar, but that's 20 years down the road. One thing they say is you haven't killed enough people on Main Street to get a bypass road. That's scary as that is, that's one of their reasons. This was something that should have been looked at a long time ago. That's why I'm worried about the future. The past councils, from 35 years ago, when I was a scoutmaster, I took my troop there. This issue was on the table, and a group from the Department of Transportation was there telling them at that time they needed to set aside a corridor for a bypass road. It was on the east side of Heber before there was any development there. The people on the council were businessmen, and they said, to heck with you, we don't want that. We want traffic going in front of our businesses to support us. So this has become a real problem. Where do we put this thing? I'm open to suggestions, and I've seen a lot of them. And I'll put some of them out there, what they are. And you probably shoot me, people who live. I've heard that we could take First East and make it a one-way street going one way. First West, make it a one-way street going the other way. This would give people a chance to, at least local people, to know that they could use those streets going one way to get off the road.
Okay.
There's also, am I good?
Yeah,
One more?
I thought you were finished.
Okay, one more
Okay.
I've heard, and this is an
Okay.
expensive one, is you just take a road like they have up in Portland, and you build a road right over the top of Main Street up on stilts and just let them go across that. Kind of expensive. You got laughed at that one. When I
Yeah.
put it on.
Ryan,
Anyway,
what needs to happen in the next 4 years to handle our traffic problem on Main Street?
Sure, and I know the question is specifically about traffic and the bypass, but when I think of the bypass, I also think of economic development for Main Street revitalization. I think those issues are really hand in glove, because we want to make Main Street a place that people drive to instead of through. And what we want to do to help accomplish that and help revitalize our Main Street is to find a way to implement and build and design an effective bypass. And really, we can talk all we want about a bypass, but unless and until we can get UDOT on board to redesignate it as new US 40, all that effort will be for naught if we can't pull the semis off Main Street and make our Main Street a true Main Street and not a thoroughfare for transient traffic. So what do? I think it starts, honestly, by UDOT and Mountain Lands hearing from you, the citizens, and us, the city. I've been in regular contact with Sean Seeger with Mountain Lands, and I've seen their map, and I've seen their plan, and I've seen their timeline. At the soonest, they would start working on the bypass or start talking about it in 2025. As of now, we only own about half of the land rights that we would need to, between the city and the county, that we would need to acquire in order to build and design and put in that bypass. So we're only halfway there as far as land rights and the right-of-way is concerned. And the other part is they just don't have us anywhere in the near term. We are on their long-term plan, and the only way to expedite that, apart from showing them that we are working in good faith to acquire those land rights between the city and the county, is to let them know that they can hear from you and they can hear from us, that this is what we want. This is what the people of this community want to have, because until that happens, it's simply going to stay on their back burner. And the other issue is the map that they've designed for the bypass, where they have it plotted. They don't have it plotted connecting all the way through on the south end of town. The bypass that they have on their map is a locals bypass of sorts, which is to say they don't have anything designed to pull semis off Main Street. That when we talk bypass and they talk bypass, we're talking two different languages. Now we need to make sure that we're collaborating and on the same page, and that starts with them regularly hearing from us and from you, the citizens of Heber, so that we know this, that they know this is a priority and this is important, because we can do everything we can to work with the county and acquire the land rights and make sure we have good engineering in place for a bypass, but unless UDOT's on board, then what we have is a really nice local road. So I think we need somebody who has experience negotiating, who has experience taking a leadership role in these types of things, and can get UDOT to the table to listen to your concerns and our concerns.
Perry?
I don't think it's that hard. I think that we've got to be a squeaky wheel. And until the citizens step up and say, let's do it. The first thing that I would ask upon election to the city council, I'd go to the mayor and I'd ask that mayor to give me a committee, or to give a committee to somebody. And let's get going on it. And let's meet with every legislature to get going. The way we get it moved up on UDOT is you make the legislature say, listen, this needs to come up and it needs to come now. That's part of going to Salt Lake and at the Capitol and meeting with those people. I've done it for the last 7 years on trying to get some laws passed. Yeah, 25. But them legislature people, you get them to understand why. We take studies to them. We do them types of things. And you got a committee working on that directly. I'll guarantee you, UDOT with legislatures saying this needs to be fixed and it needs to be fixed quick, it comes down a lot quicker. And people say, well, do we really want the bypass? Absolutely we want the bypass. Just go out there on an afternoon. It doesn't even have to be a weekend anymore. And you can't get across Main Street. Our senior citizens that are still trying to drive are afraid of Main Street. If you don't believe me, just go watch the back streets. I've done this. Go to our supermarket stores. Our bypass has to be. And people say, well, if we bypass it, the big trucks aren't going to come off from Main Street because it's 2 miles longer and it's a little bit harder. That's ridiculous. We tell them they're going to go. You either mandate that by law that they're going to use that unless it's an emergency. But how do you stop that? I'll tell you how you do it. You affect the second phase of the plan. We want to revitalize downtown, right? The way we do that is we go down to Center Street and we put a small roundabout so the trucks will not come down that because they can't go around the roundabout. And now we start to clean up our downtown. We revitalize it. And then we start giving, like we was talking earlier, businesses some incentives to come to Heber downtown. Stop and think about Center Street right now. Brand new bank on 2 corners, a rebuilt bank on a 3rd corner, and our county courthouse, our old county court building, and our city hall on the other one. What a better place to centralize our town. It can be done, but it's going to take someone going to work on it and not wait until 4 years. It needs to be done the first day. It should be happening right now.
Heidi.
Okay, I'm really happy to talk about this. As has been said, UDOT owns our Main Street. And the only way we can get it back is if, number one, we do get the bypass road built, and number two, we get UDOT to agree to give us back our Main Street. And so we may not be able to build things or lower the speed limit unless UDOT allows us to do that. So to me, the only answer, because we don't have the hundreds of millions to build that road. We just don't, not in the county, not in the city. We will need that money from the state legislature. So we have to go to them. Right now, Senator Van Tassel, he's our senator for our district. He is the Senate Transportation Committee Chair. He has power over UDOT. We need to get him to go to bat for us, but we need to have a plan. We need to finally, settle on several things between the county and the city. We on the city council, we need to lower, I think, the speed limit on Main Street again. We've done it once since I've been on the council. We could do it again, another 5 miles an hour lower. That's going to help with safety to some degree. Probably with all of the backup though during, the high traffic hours, doesn't matter how slow you go, right? Everybody stopped, right? So we can lower the speed limit. But we really have issues there. And we also did, on the city council, we did change all of the configuration in the downtown area so every single intersection is regulated and there's much better traffic flow now so that everyone knows who should stop and who should yield, right? So anyway, to me, it's going to the state legislature. That's the only way we can speed it up. We need to get that money. We need to show them that we're prepared for it. We need to keep working with the county to buy as much land as possible to finish that right-of-way, because UDOT says that they're not going to consider it until the right-of-way is complete, and we're only halfway there.
Let's move on to another subject, which traffic is a symptom, is growth. And Heber City right now is looking at an annexation map that was created by the planning department with some extra areas that they may put on the annexation map. 2 areas north of Heber that would go clear to Highway 32, It's currently in the North Village area of Wasatch County, so they already have a special service district out there, as well as Jordanelle Area C of Wasatch County. So there's already special service districts out there that supply sewer and water. Heber City right now is seriously considering annexing those huge parcels that would easily increase our growth from about 14,000 people currently to an additional 18,000 people. More than doubling the size of Heber. I'm going to ask a direct question. Are you in favor of annexing a large portion of that land into Heber? And I want you to explain how our Heber City staff could handle such an annexation currently, and how our citizens are going to be fiscally affected by an annexation that big. I'd like to start with Ryan this time, and we'll go towards me on this. So Ryan, please start and be as clear as possible how you feel about annexing that into the city at this time.
Sure, and I think given the information we currently have at our disposal, the most clear I can be is to say it depends. It depends on a handful of things, and here's why I say that. There's still a lot that we don't know. This is a very nuanced issue. If it makes sense for Heber City, I would be open to considering it. If it doesn't make sense for Heber City, then I would not be. And here's what I mean, and let's break it down and go step by step. If we're going to talk about expanding the annexation map, and as Tracy said, we're looking at a substantial population increase, I think it's clear to emphasize out of the gate that that population increase is not coming in the form of inviting more construction builds within the city. Everything within that annexation map is vested density, which is to say whether we do something or not, or if we just want to sit on our hands, it's going to get built. So our decision with the annexation map is not going to impact whether any of that density gets built. It's already getting built for decisions made independent of anybody sitting at this table right now. So if it's vested density and it's getting built, then what is the most responsible reaction we as a city can have, or what do we want to do in terms of evaluating that? I think we need to look at what the cost could be to the city in terms of providing services not covered by the special service districts, police and things of that nature. If we're looking at a substantial, or just the services we provide through City Hall and staffing, I think if we're looking at something that at the end of the day is going to create a net drain on city tax coffers and is going to come out of our general fund because we're providing all these services and we're not bringing in enough tax revenue, then no, I don't think it's something we should seriously consider and something we should look at. But like I said, it depends because we don't have all that information right now. What we do know is a lot of these areas would involve second homes, which means we have full freight property taxpayers, and we have areas where you're not going to have people living here year-round putting a substantial drain on city services. So that is one thing to consider in terms of the net income to the city making that much in terms of city services. The other concern I have is with this being vested density, we're potentially looking at an area to our north that could develop and years down the road could incorporate and could start pulling tax revenue out of Heber City because that's the new block in town, that's the new area in town, that's where all the businesses want to go. I certainly don't want to see that to Heber City, and I don't think many of you do either. So that's why I say it's important to consider everything, consider all the options and alternatives, and get as much information as possible so we can make an educated decision. I think to simply stand up right now and say no or yes would be doing a disservice to the citizens of Heber and to the city as a whole, because we don't have the information to make all the information to make an informed decision. We're still gathering that information, but let's get that information and let's see what's in our best interests. So that way we don't lose out on tax revenue, and that way we can grow responsibly, and that way we don't have a competing municipality to our north.
Harry.
It isn't all about money. It's about our community. It's about who we are. It's about the fields that we used to hunt in. I too love this community. I always have loved this community. It's about property rights. And I think Ryan's right when he says it's a hard judgment. But remember, I told you in my opening, there's hard questions, it's gonna take some hard answers. Doesn't matter if we put one home, whether it's a summer home or whether it's a full-time residence, streets have to be plowed come wintertime. Sewer plugs up, they gotta be unplugged. Water breaks down, our city, if we've annexed it, has gotta go fix it. You hear this amongst business. You hear people say, well, they'll incorporate and they'll become their own city. And I don't want that type of competition towards Heber City. What's wrong with competition? Isn't that the way our society has been built? Isn't that the American way? A little competition back and forth that keeps our prices down? Our senior citizens don't look at that. They look at the valley that's getting trampled. And there's a lot of other people that look the same way. It isn't all about money and revenue. I agree. There's some things up there that we need to look very seriously at. Right now, the answer to your very first question, no, I'm not in support of an annexation, and it'd take a lot of convincing to me to annex that piece of property.
Heidi?
What I've seen for the last 4 years on the city council is every time there is an annexation request, they always want increased density for their land so they can make certainly quite a bit of money with commercial development or subdividing into the houses. And I think that's something we have seen over and over and over again, and that really frustrates us here. It's frustrated me on the city council. I've not been happy to see the very much increased density that was given away by earlier city councils that now is coming home to roost, and everybody says, hey, what happened to our fields? What happened to our beauty? What happened to our rural, our rural atmosphere that we love here? And yet, that's all I've seen. Now, if these developers at the North Village, they've already been given the highest density in the whole county from the county. It's already there. It's already vested, as Ryan says. And so sooner or later, when that builds out, when the demand is there, I don't know how they expect the city, if the city annexes this, I don't expect, how could they ask for more density? But that's usually the reason that people come and ask for annexation, is to get more density. So I would not be in favor of giving them any more density. What I would like to do, and this is going to take quite a bit of work, and it would take a very committed council. What I would like to do is consider downzoning, taking away some of this incredible density that previous city councils as well as this city council has given. Now, I know that's a touchy subject. I know it is. But you see, that was the promise of the form-based code that was given to us before we hired the consultant, before we went through all of that. Let me just kind of back up here. The promise of the form-based code was that the density increases would come right on Main Street, and then the downzoning would happen on the edges of our city, so that that density would not just keep piling up on the outside of our city. Because that's what we've seen. We've seen those high subdivision, high density developments come in at the edges of our city. And what does that do? That just puts more pressure for the next person to annex in and get the same high density. And then, we're ending up with a donut hole with all this high density around the outside of our city. So the form-based code promise did not become reality. The consultant just said, hey, let's just increase density 3 times over the entire city. I could not live with that. That is not what I wanted at all. I don't think that's what the city wanted at all. So anyway, now we've got all this density right to the north of us that the county has already given. Okay, believe me, this shows a lot of issues more than just growth and annexation. There's a lot of issues here. The county has already master planned that whole thing. And if we look at it as a city, the county is saying, hey, would you please accept the density we've already given, the roads we've already given, the parks we've already given, all of these things, would you please accept it? I'm willing to work with the county and say, hey, no more density. We will accept what you've done, and then we'll work on the downzoning part, which has to happen in a certain way, or else it's a taking, and then the city gets sued. You have to be very careful. You have to follow legal standards there. You have to. It can't just be done at a drop of a hat. All right, that would be one plan, and I would love to see that happen. But I am one vote on the city council. And believe me, everyone, this is the time to pin us down. If you want something done, this is the time to come to us and say, hey, I want this or I want this. And if everybody would come to us and pin us down on these things, then you'd know better who to vote for. And then we could be more responsive and accountable to you too. All right. As Ryan said, as Perry says, it's going to take a lot of convincing. It's going to take a lot of collaboration with the county if the annexation plan proceeds. Okay, I have to tell you that certain city staff were ready to just slam that down. They had a whole timeline, and by now it would have been approved. And I came in, other members of the city council came in and said, whoa, no. We are not just going to rubber stamp everything that the staff wants. We're not just going to approve this willy-nilly. We have to study it carefully. And of course the county pushed back and said, hey, what are you doing? We've already got this planned. So now it's a process of, will we work with the county? Will we cave in and give more density? Because a lot of city councils have caved in and given a lot more density. Usually I say no, we're not going to do this density. But we have city staff, the executive branch that has been pushing for density, for several decades now. So it's going to take more than just my vote to be able to say slow down, stop, down zone if possible. But I am concerned about all of that density right there on our doorstep and what's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years, and then what will happen to our downtown given the growth and the density there.
Okay, thank you. Wayne?
Well, when I first heard about this, my first reaction was no and absolutely not. But as you look at it and you look and I have to back up and say my first thing that you have to take everything, you have to weigh it, you have to look at it. And I said in the meeting when it was that was proposed, and I seen what they had proposed up there, and people have the right. Property rights. They have the right to do with their property, sell it and develop it. And that might not be a bad idea to do that up there when you look at it. And the reason, Ryan touched on it, is a lot of those homes up there are going to be secondary homes. And a lot of it's going to be a gated community. So it wouldn't, I just have a feeling it wouldn't affect Heber that much. And you're going to get a tax base from those secondary homes, which will pay for itself. However, on the density part of it, I would be totally against giving them any more density than is already zoned up there. That is, you have the property rights, but you don't have you can have the right to ask for more density, but the city council doesn't have to give it to them. They can deny that density, and it goes back to changing codes, changing zones, and changing. You got to be very careful what you do. I know the county has a development up there that I'm not very happy with at all, the density that they've provided. And if they go over and take this same thing and they develop under county code, we don't know what we're going to get. So the city has to take this proposal and we have to weigh it very carefully, look what's good, what's bad, and what's good for the future of the citizens of Heber City.
Let me just interject a little bit of information because two candidates just brought it up. I've sat in Wasatch County Council meetings. Originally, Jordan L. Ridge is the one up in, way at the top of the mountain above the college, okay? Originally, when they came to Wasatch County, they said it will be a majority of second homes. Lately, they've come back because it's taken years and years and years, and the most of the development that's already happened are primary residents. There's not a lot of secondary homes that have been built in the last 5 years in this town that were primarily second home type developments. They've all been primary resident homes. They've come back to the county and has said in public meetings, you know what, we cannot guarantee that these are going to be second homes anymore. I know we came originally and applied with you saying they would be, but now we can't guarantee that that's going to be the case. And so I'm just telling you guys as city council candidates to not assume that's all going to be second homes anymore, But let me go to Perry Rose. You raised your hand as a rebuttal.
Yeah, exactly. And if they're secondary homes, they're gonna rent them out for weekends, and they're not gonna be secondary homes. It's just, all that means is that the same people's not gonna be staying in there. One. Two, I hear this, and I've talked to a lot of department heads. And you know what you hear? We're a training facility. When I was with the city, it was the same way. We're a training facility. We get these officers, or we get public works people, and they come, and we're a training facility. We train them after a couple of years, and then they move off to another place that pays them more money. Why? Because the ends aren't justifying the means. We can't pay them like the other cities can, and now we want to take on that much more and enlarge our staff that much more. Is the ends going to justify the means? I don't think they are. I really don't. And like I said, let me tell you something else. I believe, and you'll see this in my flyer. I'd ask everybody to pick this up, because I think that the current residents of Heber City, they deserve to know the financial impact, and I think there needs to be a physical evaluation. I think that needs to be required, not only on how it's going to impact the county, the city, but what about the local people? Just the local people right around that division. And people say, well, there isn't anything out there. Yeah, there is. It's called the hunting and the fishing and the sports people that are using that all the time. It's a big impact on them. And we say, well, they don't really matter. They do matter. They're human beings just like each and every one of us are.
Ryan?
Thank you. I think a lot of us get to drive through and by that area anytime we go up north on 40. And I'm pretty sure I'm not alone in my sentiment that I drive that area. I don't really want to see it built, but it's going to. It's going to happen, which is to say any decisions we make about our annexation map have this much impact on what happens in that area as far as density and it getting built. But there are a couple of steps to the annexation process. One is simply looking at our annexation map for areas that could potentially come into the city. As far as looking at that, all you're doing when you look at redrawing those boundary lines is keeping your options open. I don't know why we wouldn't want to keep our options open. That is, redrawing the map is different from an annexation itself. That requires the property owners to come to the city and say, we want to be annexed. And that's where I say I think it's important to look at all the information. There have been some joint meetings with the county council. I think those need to continue as we do find out more information. So as it stands today, I can't say if I want it to happen or if I don't want it to happen. What I can say is there's no harm in keeping the option open in case it looks like it's something that would be a net benefit to the city and would make sense for the city. And that's where I'm coming from, because I am somebody who wants to solve these tough problems, and I am somebody who wants to look at all sides of an issue, because I think that's what you, the citizens of Heber, need. Simply giving a blanket pledge right now isn't really helping or servicing anybody. I think having somebody who's willing to look at all sides of an issue and consider all the information as it comes in to make an informed, educated decision, that's what Heber needs.
Heidi, did you have a quick
Just
comment?
quick, I didn't answer on what you said it would cost. We don't know what it would cost right now. We don't know what the benefits or the costs would be, and I've said for 4 years now, the growth needs to pay for itself. And it's very complicated to track that, not just with impact fees or property taxes, et cetera. But another great concern I have with growth is that we have to protect our environment here. If we don't protect it, then the federal government will come in and mandate pollution standards and emissions and all kinds of things here. And we really need to be wise about protecting our wonderful valley and the quality of air and environment that we have here.
Wayne, would you like to make any more comments since everybody else did?
I would just like to comment that I agree with Ryan. This proposal that comes in, we have to take it, we have to look at it, we have to weigh all the information that we've got and how it's going to affect us and in what way it's going to affect us. And as Perry said, it's going to affect the citizens of Heber. That's who we're concerned for. That's who we're elected to serve. And we have to have their concerns first and foremost in whatever we do.
Great, we're gonna take a short break and we'll be right back.